welcome. I'm Rogers Anderson, Williamson County's mayor, and today as we travel around the county, we have the distinct honor to have Jason Golden, the deputy director, I call you, and thanks for being with us and talk a little bit about Williamson County Public Schools.
Well, of course, with Williamson County Schools, the first thought I always have is growth. We've been growing, and it's really not a new phenomenon. One of the things I tell people when we talk about the schools is one truism for Williamson County is growth. One of the issues that families deal with really often is rezoning. And one of the stories I tell is in 1977, my wife was rezoned when Scales opened up in the Brentwood area. She was going to Graston Elementary, and we had growth in 1977. And so when I agonize with our team over rezoning, my wife's reaction is, well, there's nothing new under the sun in Williamson County. The growth just keeps on coming.
You know, Jason, as you look out over our county, we've got about 45 schools now. The schools continue to be a number one priority for our county and have been for the last 20 to 25 years. You go back into the late 80s and early 90s and see the great emphasis that was put on by the schools and the county commission to develop an award-winning public school system. We've gone through several directors, and we're to the point now is trying to, as we were talking about growth just in general, how do we balance all this future growth? Because clearly people are moving here. We've got just a shy under a few students of 40,000 kids now. A very, very large operation just from the day-to-day operations. The question that oftentimes I'm asked is, well, why do people move to Williamson County for the schools? What makes Williamson County schools so unique that they want to come? And it is one of those premier public school systems that we have in the state. Now, we talk about the county system, but we also have to realize we have excellent Franklin Special School District. We have private schools, parochial schools, and a lot of home schools. Children do go. But what is driving this phenomenon to want to move to Williamson County for schools?
Well, we actually get that question a lot, even from our peers. We have a consortium of similar school districts throughout the middle of the country, about 10 states with similar school districts. And then our nearby peers ask us that question. And it's really a combination of a number of things. The great work of teachers, the support we get from the county commission with facilities, the parents who want to give their children something better, and then the support that they give us. So it's a combination of things. One of the questions we often get is, what's the tipping point? How did you all get to the point where you're in essence running on the interstate with your foot on the gas? And that's really where we are right now. We continue to accelerate and continue to grow. And there's no one clear answer. It's everything. But one critical piece is the support of parents who when they get home want to help their children grow and get better. And so we're operating as a team. We're not pulling against anyone else. We're all pulling together.
When you look at the schools in general, just recently we opened 3 brand new schools in the Nolensville community. We're expected in the year 2040 to almost double in our population from 210,000 to approximately 400,000. And a lot of that growth is going to be in the area of 5-year-old to 18 years of age. How do you plan? How do you forecast for that kind of growth? In the last 10 years, it's probably been Nolensville that we've seen, but that hasn't diminished what's occurring down in Spring Hill.
Yeah. And well, so to step back a little bit, 20 years ago, we were in the low teens or mid-teens in student population. We have tripled in size in 20 years. We've added pretty consistently over those 20 years in 10-year increments a little over 10,000 students a year. But what we have noticed is there's a slight trend recently where we're projecting 1,800 students more this year compared to the same time
Now
last
you said
year.
10,000 a year. You
Did I say 10,000 a
Yeah.
year? 10,000
You
every
really-
10 years.
You caused my blood
Thank you,
pressure to
thank
go
you.
up a little bit more.
10,000 every 10 years.
Right.
1,800 is our current projection for growth for this coming year. And so we're seeing that trend angle up just a little bit in raw numbers. From a percentage standpoint, it's been fairly consistent. But of course, as you grow, your percentage means higher raw
Right.
numbers. So for planning purposes, we really do a number of things with the schools. The reality is we're a fiscally conservative county, and that's appropriate. And so what we try to do is maximize what we have. That's our first step. And so to use vernacular, we try to squeeze in. And construction takes a long time too, and it's expensive when you talk about land. And so we try to maximize the use of our schools. We analyze our existing buildings to see if there's a way for us to add on, which tends to be a little less expensive than a brand new school. Currently, we're doing an analysis of our three older school campuses at Brentwood High School, Franklin High School, and we're getting prepared to do an analysis of Page High School in the form of a master plan to determine, is there a way on those campuses to increase capacity and still serve our students well? And so that's something our board's been talking about, because it's going to be a lot more fiscally appropriate to try to analyze that and see what we can do before we get to the point of needing a new school. But the reality is new schools come. We have 43 new schools, 43 schools. As you mentioned, we had 3 open in the Nolensville area just this year. We had actually gone through a 5-year period, which was unprecedented, dating back to the late 70s, early 80s, where we have not opened a school. So we opened 3 this year, but it was 5 years since we opened any. There were really 2 reasons for that. One was we rezoned the entire county about 5 years ago, and it was painful.
Oh, it was very painful.
Yeah, and because, generally speaking, everybody likes where they are. They're getting good service from the schools, and so change is very difficult. Now, our experience has been, once the change has occurred, they don't want to move again because they like where they are, and that's super. We don't like moving people, but we had discussions with the county commission over the years leading up to that massive rezoning about areas where there was space here and there. And so with the rezoning, we were able to delay a new school, but what we did was fill up our buildings by and large. And so now we've hit another point where there's an urgency to build. So we have a 5-year projection that we work with the county commission on annually to project out what we need from a facility standpoint. We're actually at the early stages of looking even beyond 5 years to see if there's a way for us to project 10 years out based on the numbers you gave us earlier.
So we know, let's kind of dig into a little bit more of the data on the facilities. We know currently that many people are moving into more of our older neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. Seniors, people my age, are moving out of communities, and the millennial children coming in with their children are buying the older homes, renovating them down, tearing them down, renovating them, and so we're beginning to see it's been over the last year to year and a half, places like Scales. You mentioned your bride and her living up in the Brentwood community. For a long time, Scales was pretty steady, didn't have a lot of changes, but all of a sudden, the last year and a half, a lot of those homes have gone on the market, and people are buying them and fixing them up, bringing in the next generation.
That's
so
right.
That presents opportunities for you.
It does, and we do growth projections, and our growth projections are really good.
Yes, they are.
And it's because our zoning staff, which consists of 2 people, our zoning staff has a really close relationship to both the developers in the county and to the municipal and county planners, and so we can come very close to projecting how many new homes are going to come on the market. And the reality is, in Williamson, when a home comes on the market, it's sold. Now, what we have found to be much more difficult is that turnover you're talking about, and so that we found that happens anecdotally in spots. Scales happened in that way about 2 years ago, and there was about a 2 or 3 year trend where Scales just boomed. Right now, we were accommodating that growth with portable units, or the joke vernacular is learning cottages. The reality is that's not ideal, but in a growth area, that's to some degree a reality. We anticipate that there will from time to time be that kind of turnover in other parts of the county as well. We actually have a board member who mentioned at one of the public meetings, I'm living in my parents' house. I bought my house from my parents because that's where I want to raise my children.
Yeah. So let's kind of shift a little bit from the 40,000 foot level. Let's get down on the individual student level. My goodness, over the years, we've heard acclimates, 94, 95% graduation rate. Let's talk a little bit about some of those numbers that oftentimes Dr. Looney or yourself or me will throw out, and maybe people don't realize how high that graduation number is and how that rates with some of the other systems across the 95 counties. And some of the other reasons and the way that many of our students, I've heard Dr. Looney speak many times about the number of available scholarship dollars that are available to our many students that finish up the high schools here in our community. I would think that, along with the governor's initiative now, not taking state dollars, but lottery dollars, helping children to be able to have an education free of charge, quite frankly, if they're not able to pay for it. But all of that goes into this big old bushel basket we try to handle and say, well, why are they coming here? You couple that with good facilities, great technology. We're trying to teach children that this is the way it's going to be in the next few years, and I mean few years. Let's talk about some of those acclimates. If you
Well, number one, graduation rate is a driver at the federal level, and so they're very interested in that. What we have seen over the years is you can't look at graduation rate alone. In my experience, from what I've seen, if graduation rate is the only focus, you're not serving the students well. And so in Williamson County, graduation rate is a product of the excellent education students are getting in the classroom. And if you do that, if you teach students well, the graduation rate will come. Now, for students who are struggling to graduate, our assistant principals and school counselors develop personal relationships with them where they plan. They follow up with students on a daily basis. They help them find ways to find something that they enjoy, so that they can get through those classes they might not enjoy, so that they can get out and have opportunities when they get out of school. And so for college purposes, it's really a combination of the ACT score, largely in this part of the country, and making sure that you graduate with the best possible classes that you can take. So AP, advanced placement classes, are a huge issue in Williamson County, where we're going beyond graduation rate and focusing on how many credits can you have before you even get out of high school towards your college degree. And that's helping students do better on the ACT, which is the basic standard that colleges use for scholarships. And so because we've taken that extra step, our students are excelling, and all those doors are opening with those millions of dollars that Dr. Looney talks about. I'm the operations guy. I can't remember off the top of my head how many millions have been offered and how many millions have been accepted. But the reality is it's more personal than that. Because a student may choose to go to the University of Tennessee, and that's substantially cheaper than going to a private school. And so if they're getting a full scholarship to UT, on paper it might not look as impressive, but it's impressive because you're not paying, the family's not paying for school. And so when we drill down to students having the opportunity to do what they want to do, it's unprecedented in my experience.
Not all of our children are going to go on to a 2 or 4 year.
Right.
We have several young men and women that choose to take a different path. They're ready to enter the workforce. Now, they think they are. You and I have both gone that route. And it sometimes our young people do not really see the reality of the world's, the dollars and cents, and how do they make a living. Are we focusing some of our monies into those skill sets that a young man, and I'll speak of that because we're both male gender, that he or she could go out there and begin a working process, or are there things that we could do, like maybe directing them over to Columbia State? Mm-hmm. Or working in conjunction with Columbia State. Yeah. And there are others, David Lipscomb and Belmont. I mean, there are many institutions that are here in our county working hand in hand. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Columbia State has been tremendous, and the state has supported our community colleges. And Columbia State's a great place to start for students who aren't 100% sure but want to get started. And so we have a really good relationship with Columbia State for our students, and we even have some joint enrollment programs with Columbia State where students can go and take some college classes while they're still in high school at the junior college level. We also have a lot of career and technical programs. Nolensville High School just opened, and I think of it as a drone program. There's actually a technical terminology for it, but it's unmanned aircraft. Which is a growing field, and so our growing school introduced an unmanned aircraft career and technical program for high school students. The state of Tennessee requires you to have an area of concentration, and that's a great opportunity at Nolensville. We just introduced a mechatronics program at Fairview High School that deals with industrial robotics. And those are just two examples, in addition to more traditional programs that people might be familiar with.
Well, and I'll interrupt you a little because I know when we're talking on the show, we oftentimes forget things, but I'm very familiar with an auto body experience there at Franklin High School.
Yeah, we entered into a joint agreement with a local body shop, actually a national program, to introduce a more professionalized auto body program at Franklin High School. You know, I mentioned growth and zoning earlier. Because of our career and technical program structure, that is one area where students can go to the program, because the reality is we can't have a program at every school. And so people who move out of state often think about magnet schools. We serve everyone academically at each high school, but from a magnet perspective, each career and technical program does stand on its own and invites students from across the county.
And I think that would lead into a discussion talking a little bit about the way that our school structure, with feeder schools from elementary to middle school to high school, that's often difficult, but I think Williamson County does as fine a job of that, and a growing system. Now, again, you do have to move from time to time. I know the zone lines change, but I think when you can go from, we'll just say, a Walnut Grove into Grassland Middle, back over to Franklin High School, there's some continuity there, not just with your peers, student peers, but you get to know that whole community flavor, which goes back to one of the reasons, I think, other than teachers, and I want to talk a little bit about that, but I think parents drive expectations of their children, and it's us as public servants to try to harness all that energy and to produce a good finished product.
Yeah. Because we have a philosophy of serving every student in the place where they are, most of our students do tend to follow that pattern from elementary to middle to high in the area where they live. We don't do a lot of busing from place to place. We focus on those zones because we, and the commission has supported us on this, have taken the position that every student's going to get a high quality education.
Let's move into your area of concentration, the operation of our schools. As schools grow, budgets grow, more funds are needed for capital funding and buildings and teachers. There's a huge appetite for good teachers in the Williamson County Public School System.
Yeah.
And finding those men and women, not just at Middle Tennessee State, which I'm being told is one of the largest universities in this immediate area for turning out teachers. It's taking a blend of both the new teacher coming out and a more seasoned teacher. But I feel that our teachers, and they're all of ours, and well over 50% of our teachers are still engaged, that live in, well, around 50% of our teachers live in our community.
Yeah.
And I think once our teachers are invested in the community, you may live in Fairview and teach in Ravenwood. That'd be a long drive, but you're involved in your community. And I think I often hear the teachers talk about it is hard work. It's hard work in the real world.
Yeah.
You've been there, I've been there. It's hard work in everything we do, but what a rewarding feel that is. And I know you always have your hands out looking for good men and women.
We're always looking. You know, as you know, professionally, with any profession, the best professionals are the ones who are internally motivated to do good. And that's what we're attracting. It is a great place to work because of the supports. The reality is we don't have a lot of people to support the teachers, but we have great people supporting the teachers. And so there are these hard to fill areas that are talked about nationally, special education, some of the sciences, mathematics. We struggle on some of those because there just aren't enough people in Middle Tennessee to fill those sometimes. But when somebody gets here, they realize that the grass is greener because of the supports. You know, it's interesting, our per pupil expenditure, at least last year, was in the high 40th percentile, 49th percentile statewide. We're very efficient with our work, and we put our efforts and our money into our teachers. We are not short on teachers in Williamson County. The support structure that we have is where we make sure that we're super tight, because the importance is getting those teachers in the classroom to serve those students.
So Jason, when we talk about dollars and cents, and I know Williamson County on a statewide level, if my memory serves me correct, across the state, the expenditure on teachers is somewhere north of 8,000, 8,500, somewhere in that. Maybe I'm off a little.
Per pupil expenditure?
Per pupil expenditure. But we're able to deliver that product. Now, you and I may differ on our analogy of that, but I think at the end of the day, the parents should feel, and the grandparents that are moving into the area to see their children blossom, that they should feel good that they really do get a good buy, a good bang for their buck in this county.
I think that's accurate. We are tremendously efficient with what we have, and it's largely because of the high quality people you have. It doesn't matter how much you spend if you don't have good people.
Running out of time, let's talk a little bit about the feds, the state, local level. Lots of conversation about that. I'm a big believer on local control. Local has more control, knows what's going on in the community, as opposed to Washington coming out with some guidelines. However, because of funding mechanism, you do have to play a lot of the games that go on with the feds and the states. But at the local level, I think it's important that people watching this show that we get about 2 or 3% of our funding from the feds.
Yeah, very relatively small.
Our system is really, because our whole state, and I think it should stay that way, I'm not advocating we change that, but our state is based on sales tax and property taxes. Right. And that's what funds our public education. And so from time to time you'll see people having this discussion about there's never enough money, there's 60 some odd percent, throw the dead in. It's all a matter of relatively, but in Williamson County, because of the success we've had and the growth we've had and the financial wealth of our county, we are penalized from the state level on funding under the BEP, which stands for Better Education Program, I think. Basic Education Program. And so we have many teachers, because we work larger than, want more than, have less students than this what the state's willing to pay for. And I think it's important that in this county that people realize that every single year, we start several $1 million, and I don't mean just $1 or $2 million, but $20, $25 million in the hole, just paying for those extra things that the school board and the county commission and our community said that's what we want for
Yeah.
the children.
We have over 400 teachers that aren't funded by the state at all based on that formula you mentioned. If we were not growing, we would be losing money under that BEP formula. So because we're growing, we're still increasing a little bit, but proportionately, historically in the last few years, the county has borne a larger percentage of our expenditures. And the reality is when people come, you have to serve them. And so what the county has done is trying to hold the line on tax revenue, and the net result of that is every year there's a slightly higher percentage of the total county budget that's spent on education to service.
So for the viewers that are watching this, the money that's made off from sales tax, say from Cool Springs Mall or our downtown Franklin area, goes to Nashville. Some of that money comes back to the local levels, comes to the schools in terms of revenue. But it's not an even swap. You don't send $1 and get $1 back.
Well, you've heard that old line about the Robin Hood effect. We're getting the Robin Hood effect. We are, through our revenue, along with a handful of other counties in the state, supporting other counties who don't have that sales tax revenue. One of the lines I've used is we're land rich but cash poor, because we are so careful about the expenditures that we have. And so the county commission has been great to us. When we have a need, they make sure we meet the need, and we're putting out a great product in a really efficient way. 2
minutes left for us to kind of discuss. It goes by fast. I'm sure I've overlooked something that maybe you wanted to touch on that I just didn't think of.
Well, it's not directly related to anything we've talked about, but because of the growth, we are really struggling in a number of employee positions. Our unemployment rate is tiny in this county. If you want to work, you can find a job, because this is the place to be. Businesses come here. And so especially with our bus drivers, transportation, some of our aftercare school workers, our food service, some of our substitutes, we're really struggling for positions. So if there's someone out there who would love to have a job where they can get up in the morning, take the midday off, work a couple hours in the afternoon, and have health insurance benefits, we've got room for you.
How do they contact you?
Our transportation department, our number is 472-4000, 615-472-4000, or you can get on our website. We'll train you. We'll pay for the training. We've got professional state-approved trainers in Williamson, which is a rarity too in the school systems.
Jason Goldland's got a big job to do every single day when he marches in here at West Main, where his office is at. Thank you. Thanks for being a person that can explain it at a level that everybody should be able to understand. If you have questions, be sure to call Jason, send an email to myself. Either one would be glad to address. We don't have any secrets. It's just trying to figure out how we're going to make this make this thing work. Thanks for being with us.
Sir.
I'm Rogers Anderson. We'll see you around the county at the next time. Have a good day.
Nothing will stand in our way. I will finish what you started.
You know the library has a Star Wars club. Have you seen The Force Awakens? Come and chat about it and the other movies in the series. Bonus, you can dress up as your favorite Star Wars character, play Star Wars games, and chat all about things Star Wars. Led by our teen Star Wars expert.